I would like to welcome everybody to the June 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting for the City of Sylvania. Will the clerk, Mrs. Smith, please call the roll?
Mr. Hanson?
Here.
Mr. Hanem?
Here.
Mr. McCann?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Richardson?
Here.
Ms. Dow? Here. Mrs. Westfall?
Here.
Thank you. All 7 members of City Council are in attendance. A quorum does exist, and we will now move to the Pledge of Allegiance, led this evening by Mr. Hanem. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I have 3 items to add to the agenda this evening, 2, and then I'll let Mrs. Westfall consider the third one. The first one is that I'd like to have an executive session at whatever number we end up with, but I think that's going to be number 16 for discussion of the pending litigation. I would like to add ordinance number 67, 2025, which was distributed to you this evening, which is the updated, the most current and recent then and now certifications ordinance number 67. We'll call that 13A. And Mrs. Westfall, would you like to add the SUP for the public hearing?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add ordinance 68, 2025, which is that SUP 1, 2025.
How about we make that 5B? Is that okay? So we got 5B is this SUP 2025, 68, 2025 ordinance, 13A, and then 16 for an executive session. Anything else you'd like to add, Mrs. Westfall?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Other members of council? Hearing none. Administrative staff, Mr. Sanford.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Chief Miller.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shaw.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schroyer.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Browning.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Great. May I have a motion to approve the council agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the amended agenda for City Council of June 2nd, 2025. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the approval of the council meeting minutes for May 19th, 2025. Mrs. Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move approval of these meeting minutes for Sylvania City Council meeting held May 19th, 2025 as submitted.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the council meeting minutes for May 19th, 2025 as submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And the council meeting minutes for May 19th, 2025 are approved as submitted. Moving on to agenda item number 5, we have the public hearing for SUP 2025. Mrs. Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a public hearing held this evening at 7:15 p.m. It's Monday, June 2nd, 2025. All members of council were present, and many members of administration, including the mayor, were present. At this hearing, we were welcoming public comment for SUP 1-2025, which is a request for a zoning change on the property located at 5834 Monroe Street, Suite M-N. Asking for a change for the existing restaurant that is currently zoned as B4 Shopping Center to be changed into Crossview Community Church, which would be a B4 special use permit. City Council did refer this to the Sylvania Planning Commission. They reviewed it at their April 16th meeting, and they supported this change unanimously. For the record, there was a certificate of notice that was sent out to all of the property owners within contiguous to and directly across the street from this piece of property. We did not have anyone present for public comment this evening, so there was a motion made by Mr. Hanem to advance legislation to this evening's City Council meeting, and that motion was seconded by Mr. Hanson, and that motion was approved unanimously, and then the meeting adjourned shortly thereafter.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments by members of council? Hearing none, we have ordinance number 68, 2025. Mrs. Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 68, 2025. All members have received copies in advance, and so I will read by title only. Granting a special use permit to permit the operation of a church in suites M and N at 5834 Monroe Street, Sylvania, Ohio, on the application of Theodore Iorio, general partner of KIF Properties Limited, on the recommendation of the Municipal Planning Commission. I move passage of of ordinance number 68-2025 as an emergency measure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 68, 2025 as an emergency measure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 6, we have had a request from Mr. Paul Hamill, 5327 Quarryside Drive, to address City Council in regards to a matter of his concern. So we put him on the agenda this evening, and many of you have already met or know Mr. Hamill, but we wanted to give him an opportunity to speak. Mr. Hamill, if you would like.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come in tonight. I came in prepared, but after talking to several of you, I don't see we don't really need that. The main reason I'm here is because of the latest evidence that you can see in the photographs that I provided, that even though they put a warning sign on this utility pole at this intersection about 6 months ago, even that sign is getting tore up and beat up now. I think it's time to move ahead with this any way possible, anything we have to do. Apparently, the problem is the getting the property there and moving that utility pole, which is all I'm here tonight for, is to get the utility pole moved. Joe has some wonderful ideas about how to improve that intersection, and he's asking me about them. I think that's great. He's got some great ideas, but that all takes time, we know that. We just want the pole moved. I believe it's going to fall back to the law department now, unfortunately, and that current property owner is going to be a little difficult. I don't see any choice but to do eminent domain on that myself, but we really need to have that utility pole moved. That's really all I have to say, and that's the only reason I'm here tonight.
Any questions from Mr. Hamill, from members of council?
Mr. Hamill, I did go out and take a look at the sign, and I come in and out of that entrance occasionally, but it's not my primary in and out. So certainly this is helpful for us to see the kind of damage. And I know there's a lot of traffic down that street. Are there any other concerns other than the fact that you're concerned for people hitting that pole? Are there any other concerns that you have for that specific area? And would you like to voice those?
People that live in the area, that live in those developments, know that if you're on westbound Little and you're approaching that intersection, if you see a truck coming up Centennial with his blinkers on, most people know, a lot of people know to stay back 5-6 car lengths so that vehicle can make that turn. If you don't, the vehicle trying to make the turn has no choice but to sit there and wait until the vehicle on Little enters Centennial. I just talked to somebody last week whose daughter was sitting there on Little, and some truck tried to make the turn, almost ran right into her, trying to avoid the pole. And I'm hearing that more and more and more. It's just dangerous. We have to do something about it.
Did we inherit this from the township?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think we annexed this ground
18.
5 or 6 years ago.
It's 18.
Yeah. Okay. Time flies.
That's what I thought.
So, Mr. McCann.
Paul, thank you for coming in to address this. I've been talking about it with our services director for years, and I'm glad that it is on a plan, not a schedule yet, but I'm in the same neighborhood and see the results of that, which I pointed out to Joe already regarding that. So I concur with what you're saying. The narrowness of the road also is a problem.
It is.
It's not
But like I said, that's not why I'm here tonight. I know that's a long term.
But I want to add that because if we're going to do one, we may as well try to do both.
Absolutely.
So, thank
Who
you.
owns the utility poles? Is it Toledo Edison?
That is
That
an
size.
issue,
I
right?
believe that was Frontier. It's Frontier that owns that.
That's a communication pole of this particular interest.
So Frontier owns that
That's my
pole?
understanding of
And the pole's on private property, is that correct?
it. It is right at the back of right of way.
Yeah, I would think it's in the.
So it's in the public right of way. But to move it, there's not any room to move it back and keep it in the right of way, is that what you're saying?
So just, there's a picture up on the board, Mr. Shaw. Picture's worth 1,000 words, so I think we all know where the intersection's at, but it would be helpful for the purposes of educating us.
In addition, if I could say one more
Absolutely.
point. The utility pole is actually protecting a fire hydrant, which is right behind it. So unfortunately, if we move the utility pole, we may also have to move the fire hydrant.
I'm wondering if the pole is there because of where the fire hydrant is also. because of the
If you give a mouse a cookie.
Yeah, so, I think it'd be a good opportunity just to kind of explain, you guys have all hit on several of these points, so I won't go into it super chapter first, but right away is the problem here, it has been. 1975, Lucas County Engineer's Office tried to do a dedication plat for right-of-way along Little for the first 1,300 feet of it. Were unsuccessful. They had real problems at this corner trying to get cooperation from property owners to work with them on doing that. Fast forward about 7 years to 1982, the county did the same process on Centennial Road, all the way from, I think it was all the way to Brent to Erie. Successful the entire stretch except for right here. There was about a grouping of 6 on the east side of Centennial Road that were not successful. They went forward with the dedication plat, but they basically just put big X's at the spots where they had troubles because they wanted to move forward with it. So here we are. I think they just threw up their hands and they were like, look, we've tried for 7 years to get this properly dedicated. Now we've had nothing but resistance, punt. And that's where it's gone. And so we inherit the property in 2018. We were notified probably within months after the annexation was completed. You've got to do something at this intersection. That's when this drawing kind of came about. We started to just take a look at what was needed. You're not going to read anything that's on here, but just Centennial up and Little this way. If it's shaded in dark gray, that's what's needed to be acquired for a properly dedicated city roadway. So what's there now is the south 25 feet, and that's it. There's nothing on the north. There's nothing even further to the south. So the only piece of dedicated right-of-way on the entire stretch is 25 feet south of the center line. That's it. That's right where that Frontier pole is at. I can't move it this way and have it be in the right-of-way, and I can't move it this way. It's kind of fixed with where it's at. So the critical path to solve Mr. Hamill's issue is to acquire the right-of-way to do it. So that's the step to do. Figuring out what to do at this intersection is like step 2. So if we're going to acquire the right of way, we need to make sure that we're doing it properly set up for the intersection improvement that we want to do. So that's kind of where we're at. Mr. Barnes and I have gone around a little bit to figure out what we want to do here. You can either put a roundabout in as a traffic control and a speed measure to kind of slow people down between Brent and Erie, be kind of a traffic calming measure that you slow them down. Be a great access point in and out of Little Road to do that. You could also just do a traditional intersection widening with turn lanes and a stop condition, a right turn lane, that. You can even do a right drop lane if it warrants coming in, but there's a number of things to do, but that all has to be set up properly to acquire the right of way, move that pole out of the way so we're set up for our improvement that we're gonna do. So that's all I wanted to show. As we go down a little bit further to the east, the problem continues. If it's in dark gray, that means it's right of way that has to be acquired. And as you go one more slide, that way through Palisades, that finishes it up. I mean, there's a lot of right of way to buy here, but if we're just focused on here and an intersection improvement, we can do that. Just depends on how this project shapes up and what's council's decision, what we want to do. But decades of problems here that need to be fixed, so.
Lucas County started it and didn't follow through. Why is that?
I don't know the answer to that. Their records are up one card that shows a commissioner's resolution to do 25 feet, and that's all we had. That's all the records indicate. We got the dedication plat that shows some signatures on it, just not filed. So I don't know the answer to that.
So our option is eminent domain here?
If you do a roadway improvement project, you're obviously gonna need the space, so you would do that. So at each quadrant, whether it's a roundabout or whatever, you would have to do some right-of-way takings. Should be anyways to fit all this stuff, and you gotta allow room for the poles to go. Yeah, there's just a lot to do.
To accomplish what you're referring to, Mr. Shaw, could you give council an idea of time frame?
Yep. So this is in our capital improvement plan. In '26, we've allocated monies to start the roadway dedication plat portion of that, as well as hire a consultant to kind of go through some alternatives for what that intersection could look like and should look like. That will better define the right-of-way limits. So that's kind of step one in '26 is to figure that step out, the what and how much, and then work in '27 to do the same to actually physically acquire the right-of-way. To do that, that's a '27 number that's currently budgeted, and then we need probably a year to require that, and then the roadway improvement was currently in our '29 capital improvement budget. So about a 3 or 4 year project. Oh, intersection widening and improvements, probably in the eights, 800,000. Roundabout would probably be a 1.5 million, maybe. Maybe by the time we buy the right away too, something like that. Do all the utilities and everything else that goes with that. The good news is this is functional class eligible for federal aid, so we could apply for our typical TMACOG projects and help fund it. Certainly OPWC eligible, absolutely. So it meets the check mark boxes for projects we look to other assistance to help us with funding.
And
Just takes time.
And
Gotta
Mr.
get
Shaw,
going.
part of this road is not in the city, correct?
This half, so from center line to the west, is all in the township still.
Right, so we could work with the county and get extra points and all of that stuff that we've done many times before.
Yep. It's just, I think the duration, he's here for the poll.
Understand.
That's about a 2-year process. If we're gonna do a roadway, kind of double it, and you gotta get in line, just like everybody else with the federal money. So that's.
I thought you said there's no place to move the pole.
There's nothing this way and there's nothing this way to slot it.
Okay, so where would
Without taking,
Without taking right of way. So you would buy the necessary rate for the intersection improvement project and utility.
Mrs. Westphal, you had a question?
I feel like we might have had this conversation once before when Mr. Hamel was in, but just out of curiosity, Mr. Shaw, is there an increase, a high incidence of accidents in that corner? And also with that pole, do you see any increased accidents in that area?
No, I get reports, kind of like Mr. Hamel, of it's been hit again or something got messed up with it. I haven't studied it from a traffic accident perspective. That would be a part of probably next year's effort to really see if it's a qualifying metric for a particular type of funding.
Okay.
I haven't studied it from a crash perspective.
Mr. Hamel, when you were talking earlier about the trucks being the issue, are you talking about like large pickup trucks, or what are we talking about?
I drive a pickup truck and I have to, it's tricky for me,
Because there's no cargo trucks going back there, is there? It's all residential.
the landscapers.
Oh, so
The landscapers with their big trailers. I see box trucks come up and down there a lot. Box trucks are gonna hit it.
To this point, the toughest movement is if you're coming north and you want to turn right and someone's moved all the way up to the stop bar, you have no room to turn and the pole is right there, so you're just a sitting duck in traffic with people coming at you 50 miles an hour.
That was my thought, yeah.
I'm sorry, making no trouble.
Yeah, no truck.
Yeah, I mean, you could, sure.
But they're not trucks, they're
Or whatever, a max length.
pickups with,
Come in through the other way.
yeah.
Maybe come in the other side a little.
And remember, I don't even have any right of way this way either. I don't have anything this whole stretch. So it's this, and everything in the middle.
So, Mr. Shaw, you've been doing this a long time for the city, worked with Frontier a lot. If you work with Mrs. Briney about trying to get this pole moved, what do you think the chances of getting that done without the longer term alternative?
They'll move it if they have the right of way to go, if I don't have a spot for them. I don't have any place to put them. I need a place to put them, that's the whole hard part. I gotta physically create the right-of-way space to put them. I don't have a space to do that right now.
Mr. Shaw, along the same axes that it's currently on, is it possible to have two and to make it so that it's not only in the corner, but you're still on the same level, both north, south, east, west? You just turn it into two, so you get a divider. You're gonna have some wires hanging above the property, but is that a way to get around the right-of-way issue for now?
I mean, we could work with them on that and see what they say. My hunch is they probably won't like that, but we could at least ask them to do that. Like I said, the right way to do it is, you know, make sure that we're putting poles in the right spot one time. You know, see what we can do, but yeah, this is just a really difficult one.
And the fire hydrant there, is that ours?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's an easy move. We could do that tomorrow. Super easy. We got the ability to do that. So that was all I wanted to go through, just kind of illustrate what the problem is. It's not super simple.
So in the ordinary course, this is a problem that is addressed.
From a roadway perspective, the pole itself probably could be moved in 2 years.
Once you acquired the right of way.
So I think to address your primary concern, Mr. Hamel, it sounds to me like it may not be in the time frame that you were shooting for, certainly, which is now.
Which,
right?
yeah. 3 months would have been
Because it's a safety issue for vehicles that are sitting in Little, getting ready to turn onto the Centennial, as truck would try to turn the corner and take the pole out. But I think Ms. Brining, it probably makes sense to notify Frontier. I'm sure they've already heard, but I think a letter that's official from the city saying, this is a problem, we'd love to have, we want to have conversations with you on how to properly address that would make sense.
That's perfect.
That's all I'm here for. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Obviously, as you know from talking to Mr. Shaw, that we're aware of it, we're interested in improving the intersection. But as you well know, and pointed out earlier, those things take time to get through the process, right? But between now and then, we can certainly try to work with Frontier to figure out how to address this particular piece of it in a more expeditious fashion.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in.
Suppose we could close the road.
Doug,
We could make it like the meadows, you can't go in, but you can go out.
yeah,
Yeah. You could do that too.
Anyways, but.
I don't know, from a public safety standpoint, I think we need to think about this and think about anything we need to do in the next 2 years. And that may be a Meadows solution. That you can, you can't enter. You know, I mean,
Let's let administration.
Yeah, I'll
Mr.
let-
Shaw, then-
I'll let Joe think about it, but my point is, just saying there's nothing we can do till 2029 might not be the best answer.
particularly if someone gets hit there.
Right.
Understood.
And we've now had this nice little presentation that's recorded for posterity.
Hi,
We
everybody.
clearly have, we as a body have knowledge of the
Yep,
problem here.
right.
And so I think it's important we have, Joe, it'd be really nice to get an email from you outlining the plan and the schedule and put that in the record, so we all know that we're doing something. I guess we have it already, so never mind. But I think this is, when these sorts of things come up, they create certain exposures that we need to be conscious of.
Agreed. Well said, Mr. Neal. Any other final comments in regards to this? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 7. We have proposed ordinance number, Mr. Hamlin, you're welcome to stay, but obviously, you know you don't have to. We have ordinance number 61, 2025 for consideration. Ms. Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you all know, we've been contracting with Lucas County since 1997 to operate the Suburban Court Services Program, which provides victims advocates to all of the, well, it started as all of the municipal courts, but we are the last surviving member of this program, and I think that we will be terminated effective at the end of this contract term, which is September 30th. So council just recently approved our agreement from 2024 to 2025, and shortly thereafter, I got a call from the county prosecutor's office that they wanted to move our victims advocate, who is Erica Drake Kennard, who's been in Sylvania Court since 1997, downtown, and send a new graduate out to handle the victims that are that have to come to our court. To say that that would be an upheaval and a disservice to the victims is an understatement. She handles all of the communication, and it would require significant staffing increase at the prosecutor's office level to do that. So I requested, what would it take to keep Erica here? And the county said, basically, we have to pay for her salary towards that end of the term of the contract, which is an additional $20,000. So our total for this year, October 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2025, will be $45,000, not the $25,000 that we usually pay. And I did want to mention, they have committed to let us keep Erica here through the end of the term. In the last whereas on the ordinance, it says through September 30th, 2024. That should be September 30th, 2025. But, so I would recommend and really appreciate your approval and consideration of this. She does a phenomenal job and really helps ease the when the victims are at the court, it's a scary situation for them. So, and she does a really good job of walking them through the process and helping them. And also there's been changes in the state law over the past period of time that have really increased the communication requirements of the prosecutor's office with victims, so.
Mrs. Westfall.
Mrs. Freining, I have a quick
Yes.
question.
Yes.
And I feel like we chatted about this on the
Yeah,
phone.
that's okay.
I support this change, but refresh my memory on what you indicated happens after that September 30th date. If you
After September 30th, the county has indicated that they are not going to be operating this program anymore. So I will likely be coming back to make a request to create a position for Erica in the prosecutor's office, or a victim's advocate.
Perfect. Well, I think certainly her many years of service and institutional knowledge are probably very beneficial.
And she, the judge and magistrate both, she doesn't have any issues with them and communicates and works well with them as well.
And then to make this change, do we need to make a motion to amend it, or just
No,
move
it's
forward
fine,
since
yeah.
we made it?
Since it's not in the bottom part or in the
Okay,
title.
perfect.
It's fine.
Perfect.
Other questions for Ms. Briding?
Mr. Mayor, you said since 97,
Yes.
so I'm guessing that, I would hate to guess, but she's been doing it for a while.
Yes.
What's the plan, conceivably the next 5 years, let's say?
Oh, she'll be here.
Okay, but let's say for whatever reason
10.
she's
Oh,
not.
she's not.
Hey, what's our plan to
We would
build a
have-
mentorship to,
Yeah, we can I'm certainly open to that. The social work programs, I'm sure, offer that. Because the county has been operating that, she's technically a county employee now. We haven't had much to do with that, but we routinely, in fact, I just had an intern start today at the prosecutor's office, so we routinely work with UT to have interns. So, and that's actually how Erica got started. She was an intern. So I've known her since she started.
yeah,
with
no, I get
Good.
that, I guess
Yeah.
everybody's
Oh,
day
yes,
comes and
absolutely.
we can't always be scared of the new person. and
Right,
we
no,
don't have
it's
the
just
processes
with
to build
Erica, and that's what we couldn't get a commitment from the county. They said they would let us have her for 2 weeks to train the new person. That's just not feasible.
So
And-
again, I guess to clarify, so as she's in this position, not now, but let's say in the next few years, what would you envision a plan being to kind of build up the next
The next
generation, yeah.
I would honestly have to talk to Erica about that and see what she would recommend. I don't know enough about the specific skills and programs at UT or Lords, to work with, but that's what my intent would be, to reach out to them
And I
get
think,
an internship program.
I think, Mr. Murphy, that when Mrs. Brennan needs to come back to us with a request at the next stage, we would be anticipating that she'd be able to respond to those things
Okay.
more thoroughly at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this is something rather new that's.
Sure.
kind of
Literally in the
come-
last-
come
Adjusting it
about.
out.
Yeah.
No, I get that, I get that.
This is a short-term little Band-Aid for, yes, in October I'll have a much better idea and
Fair enough.
more comprehensive program and plan.
I just want to remind everybody, we're picking up the cost of it to benefit our, city residents, but the biggest beneficiaries of this will be residents of Springfield Township and Sylvania Township. And that continues to be an issue that we need to keep the funding of this municipal court is something we need to continually remember and take our shots when we have them at our legislators.
No, I think that's a valid comment, certainly, Mr. Ham. Well-founded, we've been, the cities of Sylvania, as you know, and you personally and myself and others, I'm sure, and other municipalities who have municipal courts that are carrying townships and the like, it's a significant challenge or concern statewide. One thing that Ms. Browning didn't mention was that the county historically has received a grant for this. So one of the things the intern that Ms. Browning mentioned is going to pursue is to see if we can get a renewal on that grant, rather than going through the county, that it comes to us. That's one of the reasons it was so inexpensive in the first place to us, that the Victims Advocate was so inexpensive is because there was a grant. So we're gonna see if we can't secure some grant funding, and that's part of the next few months, Mr. Murphy, to figure out okay, can we get a grant, and how do we do this, and then what's the longer term plan? So, any other questions for Ms. Browning? Hearing none, we have ordinance number 61, 2025 for consideration. Mrs. Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 61-2025, and I'll read by title only. Authorizing the mayor and director of finance to enter into an amendment to the agreement on behalf of the city of Sylvania between the city of Sylvania and Board of Lucas County Commissioners for the Suburban Court Services Program, appropriating $20,000 therefore. I move passage of ordinance number 61, 2025 as an emergency measure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 61, 2025 as an emergency measure. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving ordinance number 61, 2025 as an emergency measure signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried, and ordinance number 61, 2025 is approved. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 8. We have ordinance number 62, 2025, and you'll notice that two people from the public happened to come in, and Mr. Hayner, I'm going to come to you on this one eventually, but we do have two individuals that were interested in speaking about this. So I would welcome the opportunity for you to come up, identify yourself for the record, and address these particular issues.
Good evening. Mike Durback and my wife Darlene. We live at 7408 Grenlock Drive. We've been living there 20-some years. So this is a nuisance complaint that we brought up several times in the last couple of years about a swimming pool that our neighbor has. I got pictures from, if you'd like to see them. One I took about 2 or 3 hours ago, and the other one is from June of 2023, so it's almost 2 years old. So it's showing that the pool has been in disrepair and just sitting with brackish, dirty water for years, basically. And I know the city has gone back, talked to him a few times. Neighbor said he was going to take care of it, but nothing's ever happened.
Thanks.
Okay.
Ma'am, would you like to make a comment?
I'm with him.
I know. Just because you're with him doesn't mean you don't have a voice. I wanted to give you the opportunity as well.
a lot later.
Your problem isn't with weeds, it's with a bad pool.
Correct.
Okay, so this is, we have nuisance ordinance.
The second one,
Is-
yeah.
Correct. I apologize, I got ahead of myself, Mr. Heenan.
Yeah, okay.
No, that's not your fault, that's mine.
I'll come
That's
back
on,
with
that's
you
on.
guys when you get to the right one.
We
You
got
can
it.
speak
We got
again
it.
if you'd like, but we
We're gonna,
Last time, boss.
we're gonna upgrade our code.
So as those photos are coming around, and you, thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Heenan. We do have ordinance number 62, 2025 for consideration. Mr. Heenan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 62 2025. I will read by title only. Amending Part 5 General Offenses Code of the Codified Ordinances of Sylvania, 1979, as amended by amending Chapter 555 Weeds, and I move adoption of ordinance number 62 2025 as an emergency measure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 62, 2025 as an emergency measure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And we have approved ordinance number 62, 2025 as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda item number 9, and this is the one that you sent the pictures around, and we appreciate you taking those photos and continuing to refer this to the city. We have ordinance number 63, 2025. And this one is actually about nuisance abatement, and I will put this in front of Ms. Brining, have her make some comments, and then we can react from there from council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was as a result of some discussions, just kind of as Mr. Jerback you alluded to, there's some issues around the city that we just have not been successful in either getting cooperation from the property owners, or the process that we currently have on in our code requires the agreement of a few people, 3 people, and sometimes we don't all agree on them. And so we get frustrated because we can't do anything to resolve the issue. The property, everybody else gets frustrated. So I took a look and did some research that after Mr. Shaw and I spoke, and it's kind of came up with a hybrid of a few different communities that gives the city more authority to handle our own nuisances, but also creates a process. So if there is disagreement over whether a nuisance exists, there's a process and procedure to go to a nuisance abatement board and due process and things like that. So I know this is the first time that you're kind of taking a look at it, and it is a pretty comprehensive rewrite of what we currently have. So I don't think this is the beginning of the season, so as long as we get something in place, I think by the end of the season, that will be sufficient for us. That will just give up the city more options and more authority to take care of these issues. Because when we go through our court process, they just don't show up, which also doesn't help get the problem solved. So that's why Joe and I recommended the change.
And Mrs. Brining, this, you handed out the
Yes.
old
That's the
one,
old, yep.
and essentially this is pretty dramatically changed.
Yes, it's pretty
So we
comprehensive.
really need to
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yep, yep.
Okay.
So if you want to refer it, whatever council decides is for you.
Administration's recommendation is that we would refer this to the zoning. And
I've read them both, and it is a comprehensive change and a significant expansion of our enforcement powers. It also creates due process protections. I think we need to think about how we staff this appeals committee. I don't think you want to do that hearing without not a lawyer who knows how to do a hearing. done hearings, administrative hearings in front of administrative boards that were run by non-lawyers, and they are frustrating.
Yeah. I agree.
So, when's our next meeting?
June 16th.
June 16th. What do we have that night? Do we have anything else that month?
I don't think so.
Nope.
No.
And then we don't have a meeting until the end of July, right, or the middle of July?
Yeah, in July, yeah, for another month.
Okay. I'm not gonna be here June 16th. Bad time to have a zoning committee meeting.
What's the urgency? Is there a reason it couldn't wait till the 21st of July, Mrs. Briney?
No, it can wait,
Or something in between?
because this doesn't have to be, we don't have to go through the referral process to the plan commission. So, because it's not an amendment to the zoning code, so.
I'm sorry, question. How would the process work if we pass this tonight? What does it change?
Everything.
Well,
Yeah,
no, I mean,
we could do
because
anything.
Is it?
I don't think,
Is it-
I would not feel comfortable passing this as it's written.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm
fine. Yeah.
hypothetical here, because I'm just asking more for time frame. Because
Oh, gotcha.
once we pass it, it says either it's immediate or 30 days, but we would have to put a board or commission together
Right.
first
Yeah,
in order to have this
to start the enforcement.
to start, yes. So we're months out.
in the time that I've been in this position, and even when I attended staff meetings prior to that, it's a continual frustration of the staff that we have citizens who are approaching us with legitimate concerns, but we can't get everybody to agree that this is now a nuisance, because they have different criteria which aren't driven by, Board of Health says this is, and Fire says this isn't, and all of those and everybody can't get in the same, on the same page as frequently as we would prefer.
What I'm addressing just is the remedy, because I understand what we've all heard individually.
Yeah, and I know that everybody's heard this, so Ms. Brining has come up with this mechanism to provide us additional authorities to go through this process, still making sure that people, that this is not a situation where it can be done haphazardly, but we need to be able to address the concerns of our citizens in a productive way and apply consistent enforcement of our requirements according to the city rule, regulations.
The key here is Tim Burns would basically have authority to declare the nuisance, and we don't have to worry about the Board of Health.
Right, or the fire department.
We can do it in-house. Which is good. I don't have any concerns with that. I do want to think about the checks and balances on this a little bit. And there's a right to appeal. The right to appeal is to a board that doesn't exist today. The makeup, my guess is that board's going to have very little work. Very little work, and we know from other boards that boards that have very little work are tough to get people to serve on them. And then when they do serve on them, everything is, everything is the first time. So I think we need to specifically think about this board, the appeal board, and how we want to structure it. And whether we want our law director to be the chair of the appeal board, that's a possibility. you know. I just,
Mr. Hanem, are you back the week of the 23rd?
Yeah, I am.
Something up for that week?
yeah, I could do something that week. I could do something next week.
I would have a conflict next week.
Yeah, I'm here the week of the 23rd. I have,
And zoning committee is,
I'm out the
Mr.
26th because the
Hanem, Mr.
Guardians are
Hanson,
playing Toronto.
Stowe, and myself.
Who is it?
Hanem, Hanson, Stowe.
Okay.
Are you here the week of the 23rd of June?
Yes.
Yes, July, right?
June.
The week of June.
Yes.
So maybe we can find a time that week.
How about Monday evening at like 5:30?
I mean, for me, that was,
That should look good. Monday, the 23rd, 5:30?
5:30 on June 23rd.
perfect.
Ms. Browning, one question I do have is, I believe, this would fall under zoning. We do have the zoning board of appeals.
Right, and some communities do use that, just have those boards do double duty, so to speak, but we can talk about all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there would
Yeah.
be an opportunity to
Yes,
look
yep, for sure. Yep,
separately.
Yeah,
yep,
well,
absolutely.
one of, I don't want to belabor, but one of the things we were discussed is we wanted the individuals as much as possible to be geographically dispersed in the city, because there's challenges at different spots physically, and those people are talking to their neighbors in their areas, hearing about concerns. But that's not two stone tablets coming down from the mountain either. We need to talk about a lot of different stuff, because this is a material change, but it does give us the authority to address challenges like Mr. and Mrs. Verbeck were referring to earlier. So, Mr. Hanem, are you thinking about the 23rd of June, is that correct, for a
23rd of
meeting?
June at 5:30 here in Chambers.
So I make a motion that we have a zoning committee meeting to discuss this issue on Monday, June 23rd at 5:30 PM here in council chambers.
Second.
A motion and a second to set a Board of Zoning, or a zoning committee meeting for June 23rd at 5:30 here in council chambers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Mrs. Verbeck, you're welcome to attend. Obviously, tell other people that you know that have challenges or whatever. But it might be pretty dry, we'll warn you. This is-
Mayor, I did have one last comment. We have talked to, Mr. Powers, is it? Tim Powers? Is that his last name?
Burns.
Burns, okay, sorry. We have talked to Mr. Burns multiple times over the years, and the last time that I did talk to him in the fall, he stated to me that he thought the problem was taken care of because nobody had called and complained about it in a while. And I don't feel like that's an adequate response. There's no final follow-up to see that the project was done, and it's still not done 6 months later.
Thank you. Appreciate you for letting us know. Moving on to agenda, you're welcome to stay, obviously. You're moving on to agenda item number 10. We have proposed ordinance 64, 2025. Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have in front of you tonight Haroon Park Invasive Species Control Work. This is not a new task that's been in front of City Council. We've been working in Haroon Park since 2019, and specifically with the Nature Conservancy for 6 years in this. So I've got some numbers and some years in there for the different contracts that we've done with them. The one that's proposed in front of you tonight would be the third contract for a 2-year extension to continue some work. You're gonna start to see the numbers start to cascade down a little bit, some of the heavy lifting, including the brush removal and all the other invasive species work that they've done has been very effective. So the things that you're seeing now from here on out are kind of more to keep it in line and keep it in pace with all of this great work that we've done here. If you're not familiar with the Nature Conservancy, they do work all over the state, actually all over the region. In their particular contact that we work with, Paul Blank has said our park is a model of how you do invasive species control work. They're absolutely thrilled with how this has turned out over 6 years of work. So the proposal is to extend for another 2-year period. That will get us through May 31st, 2027. The cost of the work is $20,000. We did not budget any of these monies in our budget for this year, but we've structured the contract so that invoicing for work that's going to be done yet this year, if approved, as well as into next year, would come due in June 2026. We would make sure that that number is specifically included in our budget. And then again, in June of 2027, we would have the right number budgeted for that for this 2-year contract. So the total request for the 2 years is $20,000. But to get the agreement executed tonight to get us continuing to work on the project. So be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Shaw? Anecdotally, I know from speaking with a prior member of this council, Mrs. Cappellini, she mentioned to me that there was increasing interest in bird viewing during specific times of the year. And many of you probably read articles about over in the eastern side of Lucas County and into Ottawa County, there's so many people that come. But that we have most all of those species that also fly through and stop at Haroon Park. And anecdotally, I actually saw a large group of individuals who were birders, and I talked to them specifically because I asked them. And they came into one of the restaurants in Sylvania just by happenstance when my wife and daughter and I were in there eating during Saturday morning lunch hour or breakfast time. So it does the word starts to get out when everything else is crowded for the individuals who are interested in this particular thing, that we have some wonderful opportunities in our community for that. So looks like that hard work and the money expended is paying off.
Absolutely.
Any questions for Mr. Shaw? Hearing none, we have ordinance number 64, 2025 for consideration. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to introduce by title only ordinance number 64-2025, authorizing the Mayor and Director of Finance to accept the proposal of the Nature Conservancy to provide invasive species treatments in Haroon Park, appropriating funds therefore in the amount not to exceed $20,000. I move for passage of ordinance number 64, 2025 as an emergency measure.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 64, 2025 as an emergency measure. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And ordinance number 64, 2025 is approved as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda item number 11, proposed ordinance 65, 2025, which is shade trees controlling blight. Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is that time of year where we do our typical 3 special assessments for City Council to kind of kick the ball rolling to get us on the roll for next year. This one for ordinance 65, 2025 is for street trees. No changes in this one. The 35 cents per foot is the same as it was last year. So the collection amount is the same. No changes materially in what we're doing with this particular assessed account. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Shaw? Hearing none, we have ordinance number 65, 2025 for consideration. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 65, 2025. I'll read by title only. Providing for the controlling blight and disease of shade trees and for planting, maintaining, trimming, and removing shade trees in and along the streets and within public right-of-way of the city of Sylvania. Authorizing the Director of Public Service by and through the proper officers of said city to do said work during the year 2025, establishing one district for said purpose in accordance with the provisions of section 727.011 of the revised Code of Ohio, providing for the assessment of the cost and expense thereof upon abutting properties, and I would move passage as an emergency measure.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 65, 2025 as an emergency measure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And ordinance number 65, 2025 is approved as an emergency measure. A lot of sense in that.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's a certain way you have to say these things. Understand. Moving on to agenda item number 12, we have the construction maintenance repair for drainage ditches. Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one does take a little bit of explaining. This one has materially changed. We had a new item that's in this, which is our 10 Mile Creek ditch petition from Lucas County. Our invoice that will become due early next year is about $126,000. If you guys remember back, maybe almost this time a little bit earlier last year, collectively we decided to take on that burden of ditch maintenance associated with the 10 Mile Creek stuff and us take care of it as a body rather than each individual property owner being levied on their property taxes. So it comes full circle though, right? It's a $126,000 full expense that comes back. So I'd like to, Ms. Smith was kind enough to hand out a table at your seats. I'd like to walk through that just a little bit, to demonstrate this out. So we've got 6 years to kind of plan for this. So for those that don't know, the 10 Mile Creek ditch petition is a 6-year plan proposed by the county engineer. So we need to make sure that our rate assessments and us thinking ahead for 6 years is properly planned for those invoices that are come due to us annually. So as you know, our ditch assessment is currently into 3 categories. You're a small residential, you're a large lot residential, and if you're not one of those 2, you're basically everybody else is in the other category. So $17.25 is what the current small annual fee is. That's not that's an annual fee, $17.25 per lot. Large, it's double, $34.50, and we use the same rate, $34.50 currently now. And you can see the total revenue and our city expenses that we did in 2025. So thinking forward, we got to make up that $126,000 deficit. If you look forward into 2026, we are proposing a $4 per lot increase, so $17.25 to $21.25. Same thing for large lots, the same $4 increase. And then a 50-cent increase on everybody else, but the metric has changed. If you read it closely, the item C under section 3 is $35 per year per 4,000 square feet, used to be 5. So we've lowered the metric for that. That is an increase that helps generate us a little bit of additional more money on the impervious surface side of the equation too. So if you take those 3 into consideration, your total residential combined is a little over 200,000. The everybody else category is 212,000, so that gives us 412 for the revenue side. We will be able to collect and submit back any work that we do within the ditch already. That's reimbursable expenses that we can give back to the county. So they will invoice us $126. Anything that we already do, weed whipping, chopping trees, removing log jams, all of that time, all the material, all the vehicle expenses, equipment expenses that go with that, we can recover that from the ditch petition process. So we've done that exercise already. We saw this coming. So back in 2024, we developed logbooks. We figured out how much it was going to be, and it was about $30,000. It's a little over $30,000, but for the exercise, that's what we plugged in there. So that's a credit that comes back to us. And then on the outgoing side, we got normal operation expenses that happen out of the 503 account. That's the 323. And then there's our invoice from the county ditch petition at $126,250. So if you do the math, work through those, the net is about a $5,000 setback in the account in just year 1, okay? If we continue with the process through 27, through 28, through 29, through 30, and continue those $4 rate increases as we go, and then we do 50-cent rate increases on the impervious side, you can kind of see how the net annual starts to flip itself, and then we start to generate some positive numbers in the account. So the 503 balances are listed there. By the end of the 6th year, we're hoping to end up with about 530 in the count. So that not only covers our 126 coming out for the ditch petition, but the goal of this account long-term is to get it to behave like a 701 and 702 account. We should be able to use this account to pay for storm sewer improvements in our system. So a good example of that, we just did Oakland Court. That was last year's project. I had $65,000 of storm sewer improvements specifically for that project, but we paid for it using 401 capital improvement monies. That's a perfect project that we should be able to use out of 503 to do. And so that's the goal long-term, is to start to do storm sewer improvements in our system using the 503 account. So it's the cost of the ditch petition stuff, plus starting to slowly build our reserves. Now, when we get to year 6 in 2030, 2031, a big reassessment's gonna happen, because the unknown is the county ditch petition cost. We anticipate that to go down, but we don't know that. If it goes down, we can for sure make some adjustments down accordingly to match that, okay? So some other things that we're gonna try to do to help this, the $30,000 credit, anything that we do in our system over and above that now, we can count towards that credit. So if we hire a contractor to come in and take 3 or 4 trees down in someone's backyard that's within that watershed, all of that is reimbursable and can go back towards that credit. So that $30,000 number there is really conservative. It's what we do now. This could be an aggressive 6-year plan on our end for things that we should be doing and need to be doing. This is a great time to start planning and doing those things, because that money can come back to us and help our credit. So a lot of moving pieces that are in this. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but that's the thought process behind that. So if you spend it all the way back to 26, we're asking for $4 for the smalls and large, and then the 50-cent increase on the impervious. So open the floor up.
Mr. Shaw, just looking at the current numbers for small versus large lot, it's currently half the cost for a small residential versus large lot. And so of course, if you're increasing it by the same amount for both those two, you're closing that gap down to where the small residential is increasing about 2.5 times, whereas the large lot's not even doubling itself. What's the thought behind doing the $4 each as opposed to, I don't know, a 3 and a 5?
We could easily do that, and your point is exceptionally well taken. Deputy Director Barnes and I have had that discussion immensely. We decided just for the rate structure, just to do it this way. I think we're gonna make an adjustment maybe towards that to make sure that those lines don't, start to converge on each other, but they stay proportionately different. But it's a great point, good observation, and that's something as we continue to march forward, we might look at doing that for sure.
I know on my end that would be a much easier to support.
For sure.
Set
For
of
sure.
numbers than being more possible.
Yeah, we absolutely could.
Other questions or comments from members of council?
Mr. Shaw, have we ever increased this? Like, how did we get to the 1725 or 3450? I mean, have those been established for a long period of time? Are those relatively new?
Great question. So Service Director Aller before me wanted to change the methodology in this. I'm sorry I didn't look up the year that he did this. I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago, maybe we made that move. It went from a front footage base to impervious surface base. So he was collecting something in the account that would cover our expenses. It was basically what we took in versus our expenses. It was kind of net zero. So when he changed the methodology, my hunch is these numbers that were established tried to keep the metric the same. It just kind of, the numbers fell into kind of what they were to do that. It's just my understanding of it. But the change with me is I want to see us actually doing improvements out of the account. And we should be treating this like a 701 and 702 account, when traditionally we have not been.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from council?
Is there a limit to how much we can increase some of these things without, per se, going back to the voters or something of that nature?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of, not for special assessments.
You just have to properly notice them.
Right. Yeah,
And you
everybody
have-
will get a notice, but there's a threshold, and I forget what it is. It changes, the statute changes for if your assessment is over a certain dollar amount, you get a certified letter, and so everybody, that's why we have to pass this first piece of legislation now, so that we have enough time to do all of that before they're due to the auditor by the fall.
And only
I'm
question,
guessing we're not to the certified letter territory, $30 a year?
Not for those, but some of the and I'm not sure on the ditch side, but there are certainly some property owners that, commercial, but usually it's the commercials.
Sure.
and only question, just because obviously the ditch is a tangible, this is what it's for, whereas some of the other increases are like, this is what we could use it for.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's a future expense, which I understand the benefit of it. It's a real expense that could happen someday, but
But we need to make sure whatever that threshold is, we're not crossing it, because the cost of a third certified letter would probably make this thing materially more expensive.
Yeah. To your point, Mr. Murphy, Ohio Revised
Code 727, this is the first step in it. It's an ugly read. You're welcome.
Yes,
Code.
yes, yeah.
We're doing
That's a
what
lot.
we do every year in 727, so.
Mr. Shaw, I just wanted to make the point that this is the part of the Eldon Ditch project. In addition, that the county has been communicating for the past 5 years. So the conclusion of that is the result of this for setting what the expectation is moving forward in cost. So this is not an unexpected, and we are not just going to the public with this. So it's an ongoing discussion.
So one thing I wanted to make a comment about, Mr. Shaw. We went a month and a half ago and asked the Army Corps of Engineer to basically get a second opinion on the Eldon Ditch, to your point, Mr. McCann. Would that be reimbursable through this structure?
Not the direct expense for engineering, has to be physical work
Okay.
to the creek. So it's shaping of banks, it's weed whipping, it's clearing, it's dipping, it's trees. Physical work is what we're talking about. Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Shaw in regards to ordinance 66? Hearing none, we have ordinance number 66, 2025 for consideration. Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only ordinance number 66-2025, providing for the construction, maintenance, repair, cleaning, and closing open drainage ditches located within the corporate limits of the city of Sylvania, authorizing the Director of Public Service by and through the proper officers of said city to do said work during the year 2025, establishing one district for said purpose in accordance with the provisions of section 727.012 of the Revised Code of Ohio, providing for the assessment of the cost and expense thereof upon abutting property. I move for passage of ordinance number 66-2025 as an emergency measure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 66, 2025 as an emergency measure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Ordinance number 66, 2025 is approved as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda
Mayor.
item. Yes.
Just a note of correction, I meant 10 Mile Creek. So, not Eldon Ditch.
Moving on to agenda item 13, we have resolution number 11, 2025 for street lights. Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one's back to the simple form, no changes here. 50 cents per front foot, with different circuits having a front footage of 88, based on the front footage of the parcel. There's different districts here, the Whiteway Business District, then those specifically on Main Street in Maplewood, which is kind of our decorative lights. They have different rates that go with them. So those are all there, absolutely no changes in what to collect and what to do with this one. So this one was cookie cutter just from last year. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Shaw regarding resolution 11? Hearing none, we have resolution 11, 2025 for consideration. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution number 11, 2025. I will read by title only. Declaring the necessity of lighting the streets in the city of Sylvania, Ohio, determining the manner of providing street lighting and the basis for the property owner's share of the cost and annual assessment, and I would move passage as an emergency measure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 11, 2025 as an emergency measure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Resolution number 11, 2025 is approved as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda item 13. We have ordinance number 67, 2025, which are then and now, and I'll actually ask Ms. Brining to comment about the ordinance piece, and then I'll ask Mr. Schroyer to comment about the actual then and now piece. Ms. Brining.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we've done these as, in the memo format for a period of time, and that was just based on a kind of a base recommendation from the auditor when they first wanted us to start this process. So in taking a look on the best practice and the best way to handle this going forward, reviewing the revised code, both the mayor and I thought it would be best to start doing them as ordinances, and we'll be doing them every 30 days, so probably the second meeting, except for in the summer, we'll just have one meeting, but the second meeting of every month, if we have then and now certificates to approve, they will be in this format, in an ordinance, so that's the reason for the change in the format.
And Mr. Schroeder, if you could just, I know we did this last meeting a couple weeks ago, but if you could just briefly mention or remind council members of what this is.
Yeah, these are payments that we make of over $3,000 that are included in the original past budget. That they could be an emergency purchase where they don't go through the normal purchase order process. And the auditors require us to bring them to city council for them to vote on it, on anything over $3,000. These are from February through May. We ask for your approval.
Questions for Ms. Browning or Mr. Schroeder? Mr. McCann?
Would this get us caught up?
Yeah, we're caught up through today.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think there were any in May.
Okay.
So, any other questions for Ms. Browning or Mr. Schroeder? Hearing none, Ms. Dow, since many of these are J&L mechanical building retrofits or modifications or repairs, how about you take ordinance number 67, if you would, please?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to introduce ordinance number 67-2025 and read by title only. An ordinance to authorize and ratify the execution of then and now certificates by the finance director and the payment of amounts due for various purchase orders. I move for passage of ordinance number 67-2025 as an emergency measure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 67, 2025 as an emergency measure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Ordinance 67, 2025 is approved as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda item 14, are there any additional committee reports or committee referrals? Hearing none, we have the potential of an executive session for the conversation about existing litigation and an update from the law director in regards to such. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to enter into executive session for the purposes of updating council on litigation matters. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanem?
Yes.
Mr. McCann?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Mrs. Westphal?
Yes.
All 7 members agree to enter into executive session. Therefore, we'll enter into executive session and just We have, for potential consideration, a motion, may I have a motion to exit executive
So
session?
moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to exit executive session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Mr. McCann?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall?
Yes.
All 7 members of council voted to exit executive session, therefore we have exited. We are now back on the public record. And for the public record, no decisions were made in executive session, and there's nothing else to come before council in regards to the executive session that we just held. Are there any items to come before city council before we consider adjournment? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried, and we are adjourned until our next meeting on Monday, June 16, 2025. Thank you.